G'day team, welcome to today's video, and the new map has been leaked. Not only do we get to see the aesthetic in the cinematic that dropped at 3 AM last night for me, but we also get to see the layout. I've taken the leak and I've turned it into a full map layout that we can look at and analyze and have a sort of first look at. So the first leak that we get here is we have Fade in the nightclub, and we can see this 3D layout of the map. Looks super sick. You can see the lotus flowers on top of this building here that's covered in red and some stuff around the outside. So it looks like we've got some ascending levels on the outside and have this sort of pit area in the middle. So that's a unique layout for Valorant maps. In Pearl, the devs made a conscious choice to have like a descending map flow for the attackers to give a bit of variation. You know, in Split, you have like ascending to the middle and then lower sights on the outside. But on this new map, Lotus, we're going to have like a lower inside and higher outsides, it looks like. And then if we jump ahead, we get Fade later in the nightclub using her C's in a really cool and interesting way for the cinematic. But then she checks her phone. Did you see that? If you had to be quick to catch it, play it back at quarter speed and you'll be able to see the map before that relaying info comes up. So what I've done is taken this screenshot, chucked it into Photoshop, stretched it all out so the lines were straight and parallel, added some contrast to highlight those lines, changed the color to get even more clarity, which allowed me to create this for you guys. So here we have what could be very close to the final map layout for Lotus. And what I think could be a potential spawn barrier layout looks like this. So we go over here for the A site of the defenders, B site, and then for the C site, and then for the attackers, they've sort of split into 3 main lanes from the start. And that gives us a bit of an educated guess about how the elevation in this map could look like with all these different weird looking shapes and obstacles. Now, not all of these lines are necessarily going to be walls. They could just be elevation changes. So let's dive into A site of the map first. And as you can see, we've got this really interesting looking shape here. This was kind of hard to sketch because of the way the relaying screen overlaid this section of the map. So this could be completely wrong, but my guess is that this could be a kind of rock structure and elevation. And then I think this will be an elevated structure as well. And the reason I say this is the clue that we have here. If these are the spawn barriers, which it looks like they may be, you are going to have a cutting off of sightline. You can't be looking at each other from the spawn barrier. So it's got to be impossible to see each other at 0 seconds if you're standing at the spawn barrier, at least at ground level, I suppose. And then if we look at the actual A site, we kind of have what might be like a U-haul kind of design back here, and then potentially some steps up to a platform, maybe like the 410 box in Icebox. And then we have potentially some steps up to a box here that could resemble something like 410 on Icebox. The shape at the front of A site here, I could be misinterpreting, but it does look like that could mean elevation into the site as well. Then we have this A link area, which looks really interesting, super punishable if you do decide to push this as an attacker. Lots of different nooks to hide in. But it does create this wrap like all the way into spawn, allowing you to get into this part of the map. So this is going to be a really important area to control. I think this A link area is going to make retaking A lot easier too. It also allows you to get quick rotations into B. And so let's go have a look at that now. The first and most notable thing here is this big circular structure. I have no idea what this circular structure may be. Potentially, it's just a hole that you can fall into. Maybe that's the new mechanic of the map. You can just fall off the map. The dev said that it wasn't anything too crazy though, so that might be a bit of a stretch. It might also just be a circular platform. So we would have like level 1, level 2, and level 3 here on the map, which means this could be like a heaven sort of area in B. Obviously up through mid into B, you're going to have to worry about these angles here to deal with as you cross into B as well. And then same thing coming in this way is that, you know, you've got all of these angles from A as you're trying to push into the B site as well. And I might have this area wrong again, but it looked like there was some pillars or something in this area to play around, which could make this really interesting to contest and lurk through. So actually getting to B looks like it could be quite congested, quite tricky. If this B area as well is elevated, it could be a quite complex little area with lots of nooks and crannies to hide in. So this B site could be really heavy to get into, but potentially if you're able to get through and like take this kind of space as well, potentially could be quite hard for retake. Coming over to C site here, we have some more interesting shapes. We have this kind of pit shape as well. Didn't seem to be circular. So whatever this structure is, it could go high or low. It'd be really interesting to have a bit of a pit in this kind of area. Could be quite cool. For the attackers as well, it looks like there's an interesting platform here with potentially a little box and a wall kind of that you can get up and down on, which is going to be interesting to be able to hold like aggressive C pushes out of this area. I should mention as well, all of these squares on the map, which are quite prevalent in this area, will most likely be your double stack boxes throughout the map, potentially single stack. This line, I think, will probably just be an elevation change from this area of the map. You're probably, you know, ascending up into the C site like we got from that 3D render. So this is probably a low area of the map here, and you know there might be a ramp or stairs up both sides of this and a platform, potentially a wall here or here to work with. I've just noticed I had to make a little correction in the map, so spot the difference and first person to comment, I'll pin your comment or something like that. But yeah, coming back to this elevation change for C site, pathing up to C, we have this box and sort of, again, kind of a U-haul area back here. This line here I was really unsure about. I thought it better to include it rather than not include it. So at best, I would imagine this to be just an elevation change. I doubt there's going to be a wall in this part of the map, but there could be some stairs here coming up this area or something like that. We have this really skinny chokehold for C, so it's going to be really hard to get into this back part of C, but if you are able to get here, it gives you a lot of potential space to work through. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Haven, where you can push past into spawn. Garage on Haven would be here. So you are able to get in here. It does give you some options if you can clear out this pocket and then push into spawn, wrap, do some really funky things. Catch rotators coming through B from this point. Like, really interesting things to do here. Lots of crossfire angles from this BC link area, plus playing around this box. So really curious to see how this plays out. Again, just reading into the site area, there's probably some kind of elevation change here as well. The site could be elevated from this part of the map all down here. So I just had this idea mid-recording to kind of sketch out what the elevation might be. Now, this is probably completely wrong, but as you can see, what I've kind of put in here is this sort of elevated sections heading towards A and C site, and for the spawn in the back of the map, and then we have this darker, this pit section for B as you go in and down. As you can see on that 3D render in the cinematic, we've got this potential pit here in C lobby and the elevated sections in A lobby. I am loving the first look at this map. I really think that A lobby and C lobby are going to be interesting and important positions to fight for. The way that B has like 5 kind of entrances is really, really sick as well. At first glance as well, the sites look interesting and unique, especially this B site. And it looks like there's definitely going to be options for attackers and defenders on both that initial push and in the post plant. Lots of interesting different rotates and pathways and areas of the map to hold. Really excited to see what teams come up with, and really excited to play the map in the coming days. Thanks so much for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. Come follow me and hang out with me on Twitch as well. And that's going to be it for me today. Have a good one, guys.